Hey guys, this is Cool Guy, and today we are doing a quick tutorial on how to make a Minecraft Java Edition alt using WSL, basically an AFKBoi tutorial. So, what is the point of this project? The point is to create a Minecraft Java cracked alt using Windows Subsystem for Linux. And what's the purpose? It's to run the alt on the same computer. Obviously, the best solution would just be have another computer around, but obviously this is not always possible since you usually only have one computer to work with. And this should work with many other games and apps that also require Linux to run. So a quick word about this setup. Honestly, it's a huge pain in the butt to set up, but once it's done, it's so easy to use and very convenient. But just remember that there's always a chance that something will break in the future or it'll just flat out not work on your computer. These are just things that might happen. So if possible, just use another computer. That's honestly the best solution. And not to mention, there are also some limitations. This setup will absolutely suck up CPU usage since it's not hardware accelerated. You must have a fast computer, or otherwise this will just not be, it will not be playable whatsoever. Or you can just turn the max frame rate to 10 FPS and lower the quality to lowest. Honestly, I really recommend you do that anyway. Also, one more note is that there's no sound since this is not really what it's meant to be doing. It's just an AFK alt. There is a workaround, but honestly, it's beyond the scope of this video. So, you might be wondering, why does it have to be a cracked client? Well, to be honest, it doesn't, but most people, myself included, only have one Minecraft account. So to make an alt, I'd need to use a cracked client. So this will work fine on any cracked Minecraft server, but not any official premium servers. So it's perfect for low-key home servers as long as they're cracked. But if you do happen to have 2 or more premium Minecraft accounts, then just use the official client, download it from the Minecraft website, and log in using that. And it'll work exactly the same, but you'll be able to use premium servers. So onto the tutorial. We're going to be using a Windows feature called WSL, which stands for Windows Subsystem for Linux, to achieve this. And basically what it does is it creates a virtual Linux environment inside your Windows computer. So it's like having another computer within your existing one. So I'm going to go over quickly what are the hardware requirements. So the first and most important requirement is you need to have a fast computer with lots of RAM. And I'm telling you, I cannot stress this enough, your CPU must, and I mean must, be fast. The Minecraft alt, as I mentioned before, will not be hardware accelerated, meaning your graphics card will not help with the rendering. Your CPU is going to be the one doing all the heavy lifting. So I'd say if you have above a Pentium processor, so that's an i3, i5, i7, or an AMD equivalent, so like the Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5, and Ryzen 7, you should be okay. And as for your RAM, I would definitely say 8 gigabytes is the absolute minimum. You need roughly 2 gigs for Windows, 2 gigs for normal Minecraft client, and then 2 gigs for your alt. And so that will quickly add up and you will run out of RAM quickly if you don't have 8 gigs. And any lower than that, and honestly, you will run into performance problems and it will be completely unplayable. The next requirement is that you need to have the latest version of Windows 10 for Windows Systems for Linux compatibility, and you'll also need an account with admin privileges to install programs. And you can check what version of Windows you have by going to the Start menu and typing WinVer. And then you can check here, I have 20H2, that's the current. I think that's fairly recent. I don't think it's the actual newest, but as long as it's very recent, you should be good. And you can check your system requirements by going to, or your system specs by going to the task manager. It'll look like this, but then you click more details and then go to your performance tab, check your CPU, make sure it's fairly recent. Mine is not, but it's high end for the time, and that you have plenty of RAM. Here in this VM, I have 8 gigs, but honestly, you really should have more for this to work well. Alright, and then onto the software requirements. We're going to need, as I mentioned, WSL. This is built into Windows. You just need to enable it. There's this program called VCXSRV. This is used to display the Minecraft to you. Debian, this is from the Microsoft Store, and should also work with other Debian-based distributions such as Ubuntu. And finally, OpenJDK 16, which we will install later. So let's go ahead. The first step is to install or enable the Windows Subsystem for Linux. So go to your Start menu and search for Windows Features. And then you should see this one right here that says Turn Windows Features On or Off, and go ahead and click that. And then scroll way down to the bottom and you should see Windows Subsystem for Linux right here, and go ahead and tick that box. Alright, so now it should ask you to reboot after it go ahead and install. Give it a second here. Alright, so as you can see, it's prompting me to restart, so we'll go ahead and restart, and then I'll be back in a second. Okay, cool. So we are just logging on right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and log in real quick. And now that we have the Windows Subsystem for Linux module installed in Windows, we are ready to continue. So the next step is to go ahead and find a Linux distro from the Microsoft Store. So we'll go ahead and open up the Microsoft Store. Sign in if you have not already to your Microsoft account. And make sure, let's go ahead and search for Debian. That's the distribution we're going to be using today, since it's pretty lightweight and fairly easy to use. So here, this is what it'll look like right here, and go ahead and click it and install it. Just giving a second to load real quick. Alright, so here is Debian. And we will go ahead and click the get to install it. I need to sign in real quick, I'll be right back. Okay, so I've signed in and you can see the download is now starting. So we'll just wait a little bit for this to install. It's a fairly small app, so it shouldn't be that long. As you can see, mine's almost finished already. Alright, cool. So now it is installed. Awesome. So the next step is to go ahead and launch it. So we'll hit the launch button to launch Debian. You can see it's going to start a quick install, so this will take a couple minutes. It's just going to go ahead and download the Linux environment and get everything set up for you, so that way Debian is ready for you to use. So we'll give this a couple minutes. Alright, so then once the setup is finished, it should look something like this. This is the first time setup, so this will only happen the first time. And go ahead and choose any username you want. It doesn't have to be the same as your Windows username. I'm just going to choose Cool Guy, since that's fairly simple. It should be short, easy to remember. And then pick a password. I'm just going to do admin here for testing purposes. It won't show up, but that's a security feature. Just type it and hit enter. And then you can go, once that's finished, then it should be good. Like, you should be ready. You should see this prompt, and that's how we know it's been installed correctly. So cool. Go ahead and leave this terminal window open. Just minimize it. We're going to need it again later, but we don't need the Microsoft Store anymore. Alright, so now back to Windows. We need to install a program called VCXSRV. This will let you, again, view the Linux Minecraft in Windows. So we're going to go ahead and go to this site. You can check out the link in the description. Okay, and here we are at the SourceForge site for VCXSRV. And we'll go ahead and hit the download button. Alright, so we'll give this a second to download, and then once it's done downloading, I will be right back. Okay, so our download is complete now. Now we can go ahead and launch it by just clicking this is fine. Alright. Okay, so on our install, we're just going to do a standard install. This is pretty much the same as any other install. I recommend that you leave the fonts on, but it's up to you if you want to use the start menu or desktop shortcuts. I personally don't like to have them, but you can use them if you would like. And this is fine. The default location is fine. We'll go ahead and install. All right, and this will take just a little bit of time, so I'm gonna come back to you once this is complete. Okay, so the install is now complete, so we will go ahead and hit close to complete the install. So now VCXSRV is now installed. So the next thing we need to do is to create a VCXSRV start script. So what this is going to do is we're just going to make a little configuration file so that we can start up the server pretty quickly. And then it's just called a server. It's basically just a window manager for Linux. So let's go ahead and open up Xlaunch on the start menu. We got to scroll down to VCXSRV here. Alright, so I actually didn't make, so you should probably just make a desktop shortcut since I did not, but here it is, I just made one. Alright, so then it should look something like this, so follow these directions closely because if you don't, then it probably will not work. So you should see this window after you launch the Xlaunch. Make sure you do multiple windows and set the display number to 0. It must be 0 because that's how we're going to configure it in Linux. And then we're fine to use start no client. And then this is important, you have to disable native OpenGL. Since the native OpenGL doesn't work well with Minecraft, we need to disable it. And then we're going to go ahead and save the configuration. And then you can just put it into your documents. And I'm going to call it minecraft.xlaunch. Alright. And then we can go ahead and hit finish, and you should see probably something like this. Go ahead and allow access. And then in the tray here, you should see this icon here. That's so you can tell that the Xserve has launched up properly. So that's good. We should see this. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and exit by doing right-click exit, and then we'll just do exit. So now we should see that it's not running anymore. All right, cool. So now back to Linux. Here's our Linux terminal. We're going to go ahead and update the distribution just because we need to do that in Linux since it's a brand new machine, quote unquote. So we're going to start with these two commands. And again, every single one of these commands and websites are going to be in the description, so you can just copy paste them. By the way, for copy pasting, you can just, when you copy the text from somewhere else, just right click in the terminal and it'll go ahead and paste it. Say for example, I have this copied, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that. If I wanted to paste that in, I just right click over here, boom, and now it's pasted. So that's how you would do that. So let's start with these two commands. First, we're going to do a sudo apt update. This is going to go ahead and update our repository, and then type in your password. We will go ahead and update this. But by the way, these two commands are going to take some time, so I'm going to go ahead and speed through this, and I'll be back to you once this is complete. All right, the first command is done. The next one to run is sudo apt upgrade. So go ahead and update all of the actual packages and make sure you hit Y on the prompt to go ahead and update everything. Okay, and it is complete. So that is the end of doing our updates and stuff. That's how you do updates in Linux, by the way, or in Debian at least. So now the next thing we need to do is install a couple of packages. So we're going to go ahead and run this command here, sudo apt install. We need to install LXDE core, nano, and wget. All right, and then go ahead and hit the Y key. You can see this is there's a lot of things that need to be installed. So this is probably going to be the most time-consuming one, but after it's done, we should be pretty good to go, and well on our way to creating our alt. So I will be right back to you once this is complete. This is just going to take quite a bit of time, depending on your internet connection and how fast your disk is. Oh yeah, during the install, you might see something like this. Just go ahead and select your keyboard layer by hitting the Enter key. Alright, and then the install will continue and proceed. Wow, that took a long time, but looks like we are coming up to the end of the install. It's nearly finished now. You can just tell how much time has passed. But yeah, looks like we are nearly finished here, 99%. By the way, if it ever does seem like it's getting stuck, just give it a couple more minutes before assuming it's dead. Sometimes it just gets stuck on the setup part, but usually it sorts itself out in a bit. So as you can see, we're finished installing those various packages. So now we are ready to move on to the next part. So the next part is to create a quick script within Linux to launch Minecraft. So we're going to go ahead and type the command nano mc.sh. What this is going to do is it's going to create a new file called mc.sh. sh means it's a shell script, so it's a script we're going to use to launch the Minecraft client. So we're going to type these exact lines in. So this first one's just a comment telling it that we want to use the bash shell, and then we have two lines that we need to type in that will set up the environment properly. Alright, and then what these two last things say is that I want to give the Java 1 gig of RAM, and so for the alt it's perfectly fine to have only 1 gig. It's reasonable. You can of course increase this to 2 gigs by changing both this 1G and 1G to 2G or 4G, but honestly you should probably just leave it at 1 gig since, I mean, it's just an alt, it's just going to sit there. Alright, and then you can hit Control X and then press the Y key and then hit enter to save and exit. And you can see that if I do an ls, you can see it's right there. Alright, so now let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and move on to the next step, and that is to go ahead and install the Minecraft crack line we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and use SkyaCraft. This is just my favorite crack launcher. It works well and seems to be very good in Linux. It has good support for cross-platform. So we're going to go ahead and type in this giant command. And please go ahead and copy paste this from the description. It's a giant command. Alright, and then here's the giant command. Again, please copy paste that. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then it will go ahead and download the jar file, and it is done. And so if you do an ls, you can see it's right there. And then we also need to do a chmod plus x mc.jar. What that does is it makes the jar file executable, so that way we can actually run it. Else, again, you can see it changed to the color green. Alright, so now we have downloaded the cracked client properly, but we still need Java installed. So we need OpenJDK 16, that's the latest stable version of the OpenJDK. Unfortunately, we need to install it manually since Debian doesn't do, it only does up to 11 with the current version at least. And I'm using a guide from tutorials24x7.com to do the manual install, so if you ever have any problems, refer to that guide in the description. So we're going to start by running this giant command and copy paste that. Alright, and there's the huge command. Basically what this is going to do is it's going to download the install package from the Java website. So go ahead and run that. Alright, and I typed it in wrong, but here's the actual command. Boom. And you can see it's downloading. And then there you go. If we do an ls, you can see it, and it downloaded right there. Alright, cool. So now let's move on to the next step and actually install Java. So we're going to run the next command, which is our next set of commands. So first we're going to start by creating a directory. -p. Alright, and we need to type in the password yet again. And we're going to go ahead and change directory to the user Java OpenJDK that we just made. Alright. And then the next one is to sudo mv, which will move our JDK 16.tar.gz, which we just downloaded, into JDK 16.tar.gz. So we're just moving it into this folder. If I do an ls, you can see it's here. Alright, and then the next one is sudo tar-xzvf. This is going to unzip our file, JDK 16.tar.gz. And then it'll go ahead and unzip all of the files inside there. So we'll give it a second. Alright, and it's done. If I ls, you can see we have a new folder here, and that's our Java install. So the last thing we need to do is to actually set up and let the Linux environment know that we've installed Java there. So we need to do a sudo nano /etc/profile. And then we will go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom by spamming the page down button. As you can see, I've gone to the bottom. You could spam the down arrows, up to you, but it's faster if you just page down. Okay, and then we need to add these 4 exact lines way at the bottom. So we'll start with Java home equals /user/java /openjdk -16.0.2, because that's the one that we just installed. And then we need to append that to our path colon home /bin, and then colon $Java home, whoops, /bin. Okay, and then we need to export Java home and also export path. And those are the 4 lines that we need to do, so it should look something like that. Again, these are in the description. Just type them in line by line. And then once we're done, we're going to go ahead and do the Control X, hit the Y key, and then hit enter, and that will go ahead and save it. So next thing we need to do is we need to do these 2 commands to actually install it. Well, it's already installed, but we need to tell the Linux that, hey, we've installed them there and we've put them into our profile. So we need to do sudo update alternatives -- install user bin java. And then we need to put Java to tell it that, hey, when I run the Java command, I want it to run that right there. And then user Java OpenJDK /JDK 16.0.2, which is the one we just installed, /bin/Java. And then we need to put the number 1. All right, there we go. And the next one we need to do similar, update alternatives /user /bin /javac. This is a Java compiler. And then same deal, user Java OpenJDK /JDK 16.0.2 /bin /javac, and then put the number 1. And there you go. We have successfully configured our Java. And now just to make sure that works, we're just going to do java-version. And you should see something like this if it has been installed correctly. If it says something like, oh, could not find Java, then that means you did not install it correctly. But as you can see, it has been installed correctly. Okay, cool. So now that we have created and successfully made our scripts and stuff and configured our Java, now we need to create a quick script in Windows to launch the Minecraft alt. So let's go ahead and go to our start menu and type up Notepad. And then we need to type in these two exact lines in there. So we're going to call it minecraft.xlaunch. By the way, this is the same name that you named your VCXSRV configuration at the beginning. And you can go in here to your documents. I'm just saving in my documents, and make sure that it's the same exact name in here. So you can see they're the same, so we are good. So we're going to go ahead and enter, and then we need to do Debian run, and then in quotations we'll put cd and that means run both these commands /mc.sh. And that's all we should need to do. We're going to go ahead and do a file save. And then in our same directory that we saved our xlaunch, we need to save it there as well. And then this is very important. Make sure you click this drop down and hit all files. This is very important. And then I'm just going to call it Minecraft. And then you have to put .bat at the end of your file name. You have to, or else Windows won't know what kind of file you want to make it as. So we'll go ahead and save. And just to confirm that we did in fact save it as a batch file, that's the script file in Windows, by the way. We can see that the icon has changed from a notepad to this little thing with gears. And so that's how you can tell it's a batch file. Alright, so now this script is ready to go. We can double click it from documents, but it's probably easier if we put it into the desktop. So let's right click and create shortcut. And then we can just go ahead and drag this onto our desktop, and it is right there. And of course you are free to rename this to whatever you want. I'm going to call it Minecraft alt. And I can close this, and then this is ready to go. So let's go ahead and double click it, and it will launch up Minecraft. So I was a little bit angry there because I left VCXSRV running. That's fine, you can ignore that. And you can see that it is loading a bunch of stuff right now, but it's going to be stuck here in the loading languages for a little bit. And then eventually it will load up the actual Minecraft game. So this takes probably a couple, like maybe 30 seconds for it to load up. Alright, and make sure you do not close this terminal window, because if you close it, it'll close Minecraft too. So you can just go ahead and minimize it. And as you can see, we have our username, and you can pick any username you want. I'm just going to call it AFK, I don't know, Debian or something like that. And feel free to save the username and hit play when you're ready. Okay. And this is pretty important. Before you hit the big play button, go ahead and edit your profile. You can change your profile name, but the very important thing is to tick this JVM arguments and then get rid of this part right here, this +XX use con mark. This will cause it to crash at the beginning, so we need to get rid of it. And also we need to get rid of this XX CMS incremental mode. We need to get rid of that too. Okay. And that's all we need to add to here. And if you want, you can change the resolution. I like to leave it at the smallest possible, since, as I mentioned before, this does absolutely eat up your CPU usage. So just keep it at 480p. That's up to you. And you can even use the version tick here. I'm just going to leave it at 1.17.1. That's fine. And then save profile. And then when you're ready, we can go ahead and hit play. And if everything is set up correctly, we have Java set up correctly, we got our VCXSRV set up correctly over here, then it should go ahead and download correctly and launch correctly. So I'm gonna wait for this in real time with you guys so we can see how long it takes the first time to launch. Shouldn't be that long. It's about the same as a normal Minecraft install. And in a second here we should see the window pop up. Alright, and there it is. So as soon as we know this window, we know we have done it correctly. So cool. And as I mentioned before, this is a cracked client, so you won't be able to go into any premium servers, but there are a multitude of cracked servers out there. And of course you can go into your local servers, your LAN games, or a local low-key server if they have the online mode set to false. So as you can see, it does take a little second to load up, and if I open up my task manager, you can see it's absolutely maxing out my CPU, and for good reason too. This is all rendered in software. So what I really highly recommend you do is you go straight away into your video settings and turn down all of the graphics settings. Like, they need to be absolutely at the lowest. That's fine. And I really recommend that you turn the render distance all the way down and the max frame rate to 10. This will just reduce your CPU usage a lot, although it will be a little bit choppy. And we're just going to turn down all the settings, and that should be fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a single player world just to prove that it works, and that's fine. Okay, and we are nearly into the world right now. Alright, and here we are into the world. So you will notice that it's a little bit laggy at the beginning. This is just because everything's getting loaded in. But after that, you should have no problems. And one thing I forgot to mention is that you'll notice that the mouse movement is a little bit strange in Windows. The way you can fix that is if you go to Options, and then Controls, and then change your mouse settings from raw input on to off, and that should just help a little bit with Windows being weird. Yeah, you can see that, yep, it is working, albeit right now a little bit slowly because it is a single player world. On a server it does work a little bit better. Yep, and this does look like it's working pretty well. I mean, for an alt at least. The whole point of this is not to play Minecraft at earth-shattering frame rates. The point of this is to, you know, have an alt and then you can plop it onto a server in an AFK pool somewhere and then have it AFK. That's pretty much it. And I do recommend that you keep the settings as low as possible just to reduce your CPU usage. I'll show you the CPU usage of my actual machine with the VM running. As you can see here, this is the VM virtual machine. You can see it's fairly low, only 50%. Yeah. And then in an actual machine, for my machine, for example, if I have this running on native, then it's more like 10%. It's not high at all. It's fairly manageable. It's not horrible. Okay, well, that's how you make a Java alt using Windows Systems for Linux. I hope this helped you in some way, and you can AFK in your worlds much easier. By the way, to exit the environment, the Minecraft, once you close everything out, all the windows should disappear, and then the last thing you need to do is go over here and right click and exit, and then go ahead and exit that, and you are completely ready to shut down. You're done with the setup, everything's done. You can close out everything, and that is it. So thank you guys for watching again. If you liked the video, please leave a like, and subscribe if you'd like to see more tutorials like this. But yeah, so that's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you guys so very much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button just below this video. If you'd like to watch more from me, I've picked out 2 videos on the left just for you. If you'd like to subscribe, there's my icon on the right. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! No one watches this far in the video, do they?